All right, guys. So I am filling out some paperwork, and I thought I would just kind of go over it because there were some interesting points to it. It's like a Psych Eval sort of thing where you have to go and talk to somebody, and they'll ask you questions, and all that stuff to see if you're fit mentally for these jobs. And let's see. Do you smoke cigarettes regularly? No. Um, How much do you drink normally? Nothing. I'm not like I've sworn off alcohol. I just have never found recently its benefits to benefit me. And I get that in moderation, like you don't have to become a sloppy drunk or anything else like that. But I just find that being up early, being in the fullest facilities that I can be, I understand to be, I guess, fully functional, as they say, or in your full facilities, you've needed to have slept for 8 hours for for 3 days in a row. So I realize that I don't sleep that much, and that's okay as well. So I would not want to inhibit myself further with the presence of alcohol. I've just felt personally it put me behind an eight ball at times, and if I drank to excess, then I really was not doing myself any favors. So that's an easy one. So it says, how much do you drink each week? Nothing. Each month, nothing. When was the last time you had five or more drinks in a 24-hour period? That would probably be, it's probably been at least, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, maybe. That's about it. How many drinks does it take you to start feeling the effects of alcohol? I think that's kind of a tricky one. Because if you're talking about something that is really low, then probably not too many. But if you're taking, I don't know, shots of tequila or something, I think it's always different for somebody. So, and the size of the drink. Sometimes, a place is going to give you a giant beer, and other places it's going to give you, just a shot glass. So, doesn't mean that the shot glass can't be as potent. Sometimes that's why they give it to you in that little bit. What drugs have you used or experimented with? No drugs ever. No drugs ever. And that doesn't even blur the line of like marijuana being an herb or, things like that. I've never taken any drugs. As a matter of fact, if I were to have to say a drug that I've used or experimented with, it's when my doctors have given me drugs that were like, here, let's try this or let's try that. Let's see if this helps. That's actually more of a drug than anything that I could have gotten from a friend at a party or something like that. So maybe there's that, but I know that that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for that recreational sort of thing. So have you ever been in trouble because of drug or alcohol usage? Yeah, but not legally. I think that's the difference. And sometimes I think that's where something like this is skipping a few things. I guess maybe because if it's legal, it's different. If you've done something where you've gotten in trouble for it, but I mean, there's probably a lot of people that have crashed a car, that have gotten into a fight, that have done something, broken property, or hurt themselves or others in the name of alcohol and drugs and didn't get caught for it. So yeah, I've been in trouble because of that. Now, what they're looking for is probably something more black and white. But how about just starting with the loss of self-control? Never mind like what I just named, all those other things. Everything else is starting from within. And that begins long before you ingested that first drink. I know there were times I had a rough day and I went drinking, and it only exacerbated the mood that I was kind of already in. Didn't help me, didn't make me feel any better. So what I was doing was masking or, trying to dull pain and things like that. And I didn't get there saying, oh, I need this drink, because I just started drinking because I was drinking back then when I was much younger. So wasn't doing myself any favors to the physical part of myself. And it certainly didn't help the mental, because it didn't really make me sit down and think about certain things or cope with certain things. It wasn't good for my soul, because, you get into enough altercations, whether you get in trouble legally or not, you don't really feel all that good about yourself. Yeah, it's just not one of those things. So if you ever been in trouble, that's a tricky question. But yeah, I've been in trouble. I've been in trouble with myself. Doesn't mean I got in trouble with the law or got in trouble with my parents or got in trouble with, I don't know, the apartment complex I was renting from at the time. Doesn't mean any of those things. I think the trouble stems from within. And that's where, yeah, a lot of us get in trouble, because if you don't recognize it to be trouble, it's going to become more trouble, because now it's like, oh, it's not a problem. I got it under control. Or that was just, that happened that one time, or they deserved it. So now we are projecting rather than reflecting, saying what is it that's getting me to this point where I act like that when I drink? Because there's other people here that are drinking that don't act like this. So what is it about me? What's underneath it all? And that's an important place to start. And if you don't, then you are in trouble. You are definitely in trouble when it comes to that. So I've never used drugs, again, outside of what Big Pharma gave me. So, and even that can be a problem as well, because we see a huge epidemic when it comes to a lot of the opioids and things like fentanyl and stuff like that. So definitely one of those things to be noteworthy of. That's where the trouble starts, not just after you've done something. Let's see. Everyone has some part of their body that reacts to stressful situations causing physical symptoms. I would agree. They're asking what mine would be. I think it's more of like a headache. I think I get a headache, like just, really? Is this what we're doing? Let's see. What do people do that makes you angry? How do you even put on here? Because I'm not at a point where I get angry about things. I can be extremely frustrated or highly disappointed in things, but anger to me is a loss of control. And I don't feel like I lose control. There are times I definitely get a lot more demonstrative and definitely want to prove a point, and maybe my edge is a little bit sharper. But as far as anger, oh man. But if I had to put one down, I dislike being lied to. I don't, and not in the sense of like, hey, buy this car. It's got great mileage, and then it falls apart. That's kind of being conned. That's different. What I'm talking about is people that I know, that I'm close to. Like, don't insult my intelligence. That's the one that kind of gets me, because it's like, we know each other. I know you. You know me. Like, don't insult my intelligence. And I think that's a fair one for a lot of people. But again, it doesn't have to mean anger. It can just mean that's what brings the most out of you, the most passion out of you. So maybe it is anger, who knows? But I don't feel like I get angry anymore. I think I, have a few times since the year started, probably could qualify as a point of being angry. But we're also humans, and we should go through a full range of emotions. So I certainly don't want to suppress things down, but I certainly also want to know how to cope with things before they get me to those points as well. I think that that's an important place for us all to get to. Most of our lives are wash, rinse, repeat. So if you see the same stressors and things that frustrate you, you have a chance before it's over here, before you get back around to it. When you're over here, sometimes you plan ahead, like, okay, once I get back around and this happens, what am I telling that annoying coworker, or that unsatisfied boss, or what am I doing in my personal relationship as a spouse, as a parent, as a sibling? There's a lot of places that we can, kind of preemptively plan, not just to rebuttal and win the day, but to kind of get through it and say, this is what I'm going to do, to sometimes avoid it as well. So that's just my thought on that. And what do you do when you become angered? I tried, my immediate thought, and even what I answered, is to self-reflect and look for the life lesson. There's things that are being taught to us all the time. And I always say, one, it's the old analogy, be a student of life. So I always say, stay enrolled as a student of life. And then two, life is always going to test us. There's quizzes and tests everywhere. Are you taking notes? And again, the notes are, I know that when I walk through the door at work, that one coworker is going to tell me X, Y, or Z. I have time to think about how do I want to address this? What is my conflict resolution? Even if it's not a conflict, what is my resolution to myself to say, this is how I'm going to address this, so I don't have to have my day turned upside down because somebody else's energy? How do you protect your proverbial energy from those energy vampires, from them not being able to bite into you? How do you protect yourself? Okay, so a lot of times it's something to think about. But when if I become angered, yeah, you definitely have to self-reflect, and you may not do it directly at that moment. That's again, we're allowed to be human. So we think it through. We think it through afterwards, and if there's apologies to be made, you make the apologies, or if there's something to follow up on. But we can't insist upon ourselves just to say, well, I feel a certain way, so now we have to follow through. You have to give sometimes the other people as well the opportunity to process it and introduce the possibility of having a conversation or a topic. But if it's just a self thing, yeah, sit down with yourself and really think that through, so you don't go through it further. And how do others know when you are angry? For me personally, I think a lot of times, and I think it depends. Do you know the person or do you not know the person? What's the circumstance? I think we know each other well enough when we are friends, when we are close, when we have intimate relationships. And when I say intimate, I don't mean just physical. I don't mean just like that sort of thing. I'm talking about you can have two women that are really good friends, two guys that are really good friends. I have intimate relationships with some guy friends that I call brothers. And so it transcends a lot of things. They know me like I would be able to see something wrong with them. So sometimes it's a little bit different. What are we asking ourselves, or what are we asking them to say? How would others know? We don't always go full, Hulk, Incredible Hulk, and start smashing things and yelling. And for the most part, I would say being able to relay dissatisfaction. And there's a lot of ways to communicate. Sometimes it can be through verbal. Sometimes it can be through nonverbal. Just silence can certainly say something as well. Silence speaks volumes at times. And so I think that there's some ways to do that. Now, the silence I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because I don't think that it's like I'm just going to ignore you or give you the silent treatment. That's a different sort of silence. Sometimes the silence is okay. And again, it gives us time to go into that reflection rather than possibly continuing to project if it's a debate, if it's in disagreement. So sometimes just being able just to say, okay, that's cool. Let me grab this bag of stoicism. Let me grab this bag of logic and not further go down this, and then say something that I possibly may not be able to come back from. So, but you want to make sure that your communication is non-aggressive too, even non-passive aggressive. Let the people know, or whatever. Hey, it's cool, but it's just nothing I want to speak on right now, and hopefully you'll respect that, or we can come back around to it. So, it gives everybody a chance to process the circumstance. Oh, let's see. Describe situations or incidents in your life that have been most difficult for you. I would say most notably going through family court and what my kids had to endure. It wasn't fair to them, and it wasn't fair for an adult to put them in a circumstance where that's what they had to do. If anybody's familiar with parental alienation, it's an ugly thing, and it's a real thing. And so what I knew for myself was that my fight for my children was a righteous one. And I don't say that in like a biblical, Christ-like, religious sort of sense. I just know I was fighting on the side of right. And I will say that to the end of time, because that's what people need to hear. People need to hear more of that, to beat down the stigma that men don't care, or beat down the stigma that especially black fathers don't care, or are not there for their children. So that is definitely most notably probably one of the most difficult things that I had to go through, because it affects other people. When I was homeless, it's just you. And so or at least in my case, it was just me. Some people have been homeless with children. But when things affect children, it's different, because they're innocent. They don't necessarily deserve a lot of the things that they are asked to go through, but it makes resilient people at times as well. So by being homeless for myself, I was a single guy at the time. And so you just kind of hop from place to place. You can kind of live off of whatever you live off of, just living off the land, so to speak. So But yeah, it was definitely different when it happens to kids, because what happens is adults can't get to each other at times when they're just through with each other. And so what will they do? They will try to get to you through your children. And I deplore that. It doesn't make me angry. But it's just one of those things that I think makes a really terrible human being, regardless of what they're going through. You don't use the kids like that. That's just my thought. Just my thought. Let's see. That might be all the questions that I wanted to bring here. That might be everything. I do believe. Let me see. They ask about when was the last time you were involved in a fist fight and why. Oh, let's see. It was about 2006. I was a bouncer. I got a job as a bouncer at a strip club. Yes, at a strip club. And I kind of moved up, and the owner took a liking to me, so I got bumped up to management. And it was, it was simple stuff. You're counting the drawers, overlooking, the staff, setting schedules, stuff like that. And one night, can't even remember how it started, but there were some guys that were just not being good patrons. Like, guys, there's drinks here you can pay for. There's women that you can watch. You can go tip them. Like, there's music playing. Like, what are we doing here? There's a pool table. There's plenty of opportunity to to just not do what you're about to get into. And so I think I was telling the my team of doormen, like, they got to go. And of course, it turned into words, and words turned into action. And so me and one guy are rolling around on the floor by the bar. Interesting times, but it ended quickly and without major incident, and they were removed from the premises. And it happens. And thankfully, that was probably the last time. Yeah, I would definitely say that was probably the last time. Can't think of another time. Maybe, maybe like in sports. Sometimes, like, you get a little aggressive on the field and things like that, but that's like a controlled area. Even if you get flagged for, like, doing a little too much, it's still one of those things. So that was probably in 2006. Have you ever been in counseling or therapy? No, I have not. But I think it's important for a lot of people. And the question sometimes isn't, have you ever been? Sometimes it's, should you have ever been? I think a lot of people, most of us, would have benefited from some sort of therapy at some point in time or another. I think that's just a fair thing to come to a conclusion to. A lot of people might deny it. A lot of people might think, no, I don't need anything. And I was one of those people. No, that's not for me. But when we talk to our close friends, when we talk to confidants and things like that, it's a form of therapy. Just because you haven't gone to an office and laid on a couch next to somebody wearing very small monocles and possibly a European accent doesn't mean that you haven't gone through some sort of therapy. No different than just using like a home back massager is a form of therapy. Just because you didn't go to a massage parlor to meet with a physical therapist or a masseuse or something, it's still a form of therapy. So sometimes we microdose and actually get ourselves to believe, now that's not necessarily therapy. But yeah, if you've had to trauma dump on a friend and really, kind of put out, what you're going through, it's a form of therapy. So make sure you thank your friends. If you're not going to an actual therapist, make sure you thank the people that you are actually sharing all of these stories with and allowing you to vent, because that's an important thing, because we don't want to just always put it out on them without showing some sort of gratitude, or at least returning the favor of letting them do the same. I think that's about it. As far as this this form goes. But I thought it was interesting. It was just some stuff that I wanted to go over. So simple video, and it might just be one of those things. I don't know. Maybe I'll call this fun facts about Vincent, Alfonso, Jamal. That these are these things. But yeah. Those are my thoughts on those, and I thought, this would be interesting. So, guys, I don't know if you go through and have any answers for these questions yourself, or any ace up the sleeve advice, comment, experience on something just as simple as, should everybody have therapy, or has everybody experienced some form of therapy? Because again, when you turn and talk to your friend, a sibling, or even a complete stranger, and you're just getting out all of this poison sometimes that plagues us, that's a form of therapy. So again, they don't have to be licensed or certified or have a master's in order to listen and that be therapy. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, and I hope this finds everybody in your place, pursuit, or beginnings of total health, mind, body, and soul. Peace, love, unity, solidarity. And as always, subscriptions and videos. So stick around.